Hey, this is Nature Jack. Welcome back to Science with Nature Jack. Today we're going to talk about the moon, something that's connected to the Earth. This is the Earth. The Earth is something we are standing on. The Earth is always moving around. It moves around what we call in a rotation. And next to the Earth, moving around the Earth at the same time, is the moon. So as the Earth is moving around, so is the moon. Hey, this is the sun. The sun is 94 million miles away from us out in space. And the sun is always shining, and the light from the sun travels 94 million miles right to our Earth. And it keeps us warm, and it also gives us light. And while the Earth is turning, we have day and night. So you're sitting in the daylight, but on the other side of the Earth, it's nighttime. Isn't that amazing? So as the light shines 94 million miles and lights up the Earth is turning. And you know what? The moon is going around the Earth at the same time. So the moon is going around the Earth while the Earth is turning in its orbit. And at some point, the moon actually blocks some of the sunlight going to the Earth. And when that happens, the moon is only lit by the light from the sun on part of the moon. And that's why the moon goes through phases or faces on the moon. Now the Earth is 94 million miles from the sun, and it's also 4.5 billion years old. And about 4.5 billion years ago, something collided with the Earth and formed the moon, which is about 4 billion years old. So it took about 500 million years for the moon to form. So while the Earth is turning, the moon is going around in its orbit, the sun is shining on the Earth, and we have something called the phases of the moon. So now let's read a story about the phases on the moon. So let's read a story about the moon phases. This book is called So That's How the Moon Changes Shape. It's a rookie read about science book written by Alan Fowler. I'm going to put on my glasses so I can read better. Do you ever look up at the moon and wonder why? Why can't the moon make up its mind what shape to be in? Sometimes the moon is a bright circle and we call it a full moon. Everyone say full moon. Look, it's white and it's round. But some nights the moon looks more like this. It's big, it's round. What colors do you see? Does anyone see orange? Does anyone see yellow? Does anyone see brown? It's a whole different color. Or like this half moon. So it looks like the moon is only half there. This is a half moon. Or like this crescent moon. This is the crescent moon. And some nights you can't see it at all. You go outside and you look up in the sky and there's nothing there. Where is the moon? It's really there, but the sun's reflection is not shining on it, so you can't see it. How does the moon change its shape? It really doesn't. It's always a big shape like a ball. A ball of rock with neither air nor water, so people and animals and plants can't live there. Here's a picture of the lunar landing on the moon. And here's a picture of an astronaut walking on the moon. Look at the surface of the moon. It's full of craters and it's very, very, very dry. Why doesn't the whole moon shine every night? Because the moon doesn't really shine at all. It's the sun that shines on the moon and lights it up. We say that the moon reflects the sunlight. And that's what the moon looks like from space. Even though the sun is on the other side of the Earth at night, where you can't see it, the sun's rays may still reach the moon and make it glow. The moon is always traveling in a big circle around the Earth. We say it's orbiting the Earth. So here's the sun, which is 94 million miles away from the Earth. It's shining on the Earth, and as the moon goes around the Earth, different parts of the moon are reflected differently. So we have the cycle of the moon because it's blocking the light as it goes around the Earth. Sometimes the sun rays reach only a part of the moon or none of it. And sometimes the moon is in a part of the sky where the sun lights up all of it. When it's fully lit up, it's called the full moon. When there's no light reaching it, it's called the new moon. So that's how the moon seems to change its shape. Next time you think you see the moon shining, remember, you're really looking at sunshine. Okay, let's talk about the words from this book. We have the word moon, we have the word full moon, we have half moon, and crescent moon. Hope you enjoyed reading this book and listening to Nature Jack. So now that we've read the book titled So That's How the Moon Changes Shape, and we saw inside the book what the moon looks like on the surface of the moon, this is a real photograph of the surface of the moon. And you can see the craters over here that were formed when asteroids crashed into the moon over billions of years. And what's great about this particular photograph is I can put my face in here. And you can actually say that Nature Jack is the man in the moon. So when you look up at the moon next time, you can say, I see Nature Jack on the moon. He must be the man in the moon. Here's a great activity you can do at home or in school to show the different phases of the moon. So we're going to show 4 phases using paper plates. So for each person, you're going to need 3 paper plates. 1, 2, and 3. And what I want you to do is, I want you to get out your scissor, and I want you to hold the paper plate, and I want you to put the scissor right over here on this side, and you're going to cut it. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a crescent moon shape. So we're going to take our scissor, and we're going to cut through the plate like this. Going to go right through the plate like that. And then you're left with a crescent moon. The moon you see in the sky just before it disappears. So this is a crescent moon. Now take another plate, a second plate, and take your scissor and cut the plate in half, right through the middle. And then you're left with a half moon. So now you have 2 parts of the moon cycle. You have the crescent and the half. And the next one is called the waxing gibbous. Can everybody say waxing gibbous? It's a strange word, but it says waxing gibbous. So now we're going to take this plate, which we already cut the crescent out of. You don't have to cut this. It's already the shape of the waxing gibbous. So finally, I want you to take the 3rd plate and just leave it the way it is. This is the full moon. And when you're done, you can label each plate, and this is what it will look like when you're finished. So you have the crescent moon, the half moon, the waxing gibbous moon, and the full moon. And that's another great activity to do so you can get to the feel of what the moon phases are looking like. So the Earth is a lot smaller than the sun, and the moon is a lot smaller than the Earth. And the Earth is about 239,000 miles from the moon. And while the moon is going around the Earth, it's pulling on the Earth. And when something is pulling on something, it keeps it in place. Let me show you what I mean by pulling. So I have a rope here, and a rope is made out of something called hemp. And if you pull on the rope really hard, that's what I mean by pulling on the Earth. So the moon is pulling on the Earth. And while the moon is pulling on the Earth, and the Earth can't move, everything on the Earth stays on the Earth because of gravity holds it on the Earth. But the Earth is covered in water, and the water isn't stuck to the Earth, and it doesn't stay there by gravity. So as the moon goes around the Earth and it's pulling on the Earth, it's pulling on the oceans, and then we have waves in the ocean. And you'll be able to see in this video how the moon's pull is making the ocean tides go in and go out. Let me show you visually. So the waves come in, and the waves go out. And the waves going out meet the waves coming in. And the moon pulls on the ocean and creates the high tides and the low tides. Now remember, the moon is pulling on the earth. It's pulling like I'm pulling this rope. And it's pulling on the earth and forces the waves in the ocean to move back and forth. So we have high tide and low tide. And now I'm going to show you what that looks like in this pie pan. This is a model of the ocean. So here is the sand and here is the water. And when the water goes out, we say that's low tide. The water goes back out in the ocean. And when it comes into the shore, we say it's high tide because the water comes up to the shore. So we have low tide and high tide. And the moon is pulling on the earth and causing the oceans to form low tides and high tide. Low tide and high tide. And that's what happens from the magnetic force pulling on the earth. So for our next activity, we're going to do what we call a make and take activity. You're going to make something in these bottles and you're going to be able to take it home and play with it for a long time. So everybody should have a plastic water bottle in their hand, and inside the bottle is nothing except air, and we've gone through that many times. So there's air in the bottle. There might be a little bit of water, but it's mostly air. Make sure your bottle has a lid, because when we finish this activity, the lid has to be sealed on tight. So we're going to take our empty bottle that's just filled with air, remember, and we're going to take some water. Now your teacher may have put water into a cup, so you're going to pour that water into the bottle. Carefully pour it. If some of it drops on the table, that's fine. So we're going to fill the bottle up about halfway. And then we're going to take some glitter. You can use any color glitter. It's just used to make it more fun. So we're going to take some glitter. And your teacher may have given you glitter in a cup. We're going to pour it into the bottle. Just about a quarter teaspoon of glitter into the water. Now if you put the top back on and you shake it, the glitter mixes with the water, but mostly sits on top of the water, but it does look kind of cool. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some blue food coloring and drip it into your water so that your water turns blue. So you're going to take your bottle, you're going to put the lid back on, you're going to shake the bottle so the blue food coloring mixes with the water, and the glitter also sits on top of the water. Now we're going to open up our bottle again and put the lid on the table, and we're going to take some vegetable oil, which should be in a cup in front of you, and we're going to pour the vegetable oil into the bottle that has the blue water and the food coloring and the glitter. And what's going to happen? Does anybody know what happens when you mix oil and water? Let's take a guess. What really happens? So you're going to take your oil that's probably in a cup in front of you. I have it in a bottle, and I'm going to pour it right into the water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put enough in to fill it up just like that. Make sure you put the lid back on your oil if you're using a bottle of oil. Make sure you put the lid back on your water bottle so it's like this. Now if you look very carefully, you can see that there are two different kinds of liquid in this bottle. On the bottom is what? What was colored blue? Does anybody remember? Right, it's the water. And on top of the water is the oil. And why is the oil sitting on top of the water? Because oil is not as dense or heavy as water. So the heavier liquid goes to the bottom. So you have the heavy water and the lighter oil. Even though oil is very sticky, it's lighter than water. So now you've made something called a blue wave bottle, like the waves in the ocean. And when you turn it on its side, you can actually make it look like the ocean. And the glitter just makes it more fun. So you have what we call a blue wave bottle. And make sure your teacher tapes the bottle top shut or uses a hot glue gun, because when you get home, you don't want this oil and water to spill onto your floor, because that'd be very messy and your mother would be very unhappy. So now we have a blue wave bottle. Make sure you write your name on the lid so you know it's your bottle, and you can keep this for years. Isn't that cool? That's called a blue wave bottle with Nature Jack. So here's a great activity, teachers, you can do with your students in the classroom. Take a white piece of paper. I know they're watching, so they'll know what you're doing. And take a cup or something like this that has a round opening, and take the cup and put it on the paper, and then take a marker and outline the diameter of the cup so you make a circle. And I want you to do 4 of them. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to turn mine over and show you what I did. Here are 4 great circles, and each one is going to represent a quarter of the moon. And what you can do is take a piece of cardboard paper and go to the first one and draw a half moon. So right down the middle, it doesn't have to be exact, you're going to draw a half. So then we have a half moon. Now we're going to go to the next circle and we're going to draw a quarter of the moon. So that's a quarter moon. And then we're going to go to this one over here, and we're going to make even a smaller one. We're going to say this is the crescent. So there's your crescent moon. And now you can either go with the full moon or a gibbous, waxing gibbous moon. I think we'll just go with the full moon. So now, ask your students to take a crayon of any color. Here's a brown crayon. And I'm just going to color in the full moon. And they can just color this in. So you're just coloring it in. You know, children between ages 2, 3, and 4, some of them color better than others, but it's fine. Whatever it looks like is fine. It's perfect. Here is your full moon. Now we're going to color in the half moon. There's our half moon. Now we're going to do the crescent moon. Crescent moon. And finally we're going to do our quarter moon. So these are 4 phases of the monthly moon cycle, or the phases of the moon. You have the full moon, half moon, quarter moon, and crescent moon. So that's a great activity you can do with the children. I hope you have fun doing it. Another great way, and mostly delicious way, to show the phases of the moon is to use a package of Oreos. For this activity, you'll probably need 3 or 4 Oreos. So get them out and let's start. So now that you have 4 Oreos out in front of you on the table, we're going to do our Oreo phases of the moon activity, which is going to be fun and delicious at the same time. So I want you to pick up your first Oreo, and I want you to hold it in your hand. And let's look at the shape of the Oreo. What shape is the Oreo? Yes, it's round. And what other thing is round that we've been talking about in this lesson? Yes, the moon is round, and so is the earth, and so is the sun. So the shape of the Oreo is actually a circle, which is a round circle. And if you take a second, you can smell the Oreo. Smells very chocolatey. Probably doesn't smell like a moon, but it's fun to smell. And what I want you to do now is, I'd like you to break apart your first Oreo. Just pull it apart very carefully. And now you have the 2 parts of an Oreo. You have the 2 sides and the icing inside. Now the phases of the moon that we're going to use for this Oreo is 4 different phases. We're looking at the new moon, the quarter moon, the half moon, and the last quarter. So if you take your first Oreo with all the icing on here, we say this is the full moon. So if you look up in the sky and you see a bright white moon, we say that is the full moon, and that's what this looks like. So we're going to take this piece and put it on the table. Now we're going to take another Oreo that we've already broken apart, and you're going to eat half of the icing inside, just half. So very carefully put your teeth on the icing and break apart half of it. Let me show you what that looks like. Now you have the first quarter of the moon. So when you look up in the sky at night and you see a quarter of the moon, this is what it looks like. And this is what we're using in Oreo to show you the last quarter of the moon. We're going to put that down next to the full moon. So we have the full moon and the quarter moon. Now, after the quarter moon disappears, we're left with the new moon. When you look up in the sky and you don't see anything into space, it's just blank. It's not even up there. You know it's up there, but it's not reflecting any of the sunlight. So all you see is a dark sky. That's called the new moon. And this is what it looks like on the Oreo. There's no icing, so it's a new moon. We're going to put that down on the table finally. And now we're going to take the last Oreo, half that we opened up, and we're going to bite it in half again. So you're going to put your teeth on here and bite off half of the icing. Boy, is that good when you taste it. And there you go. This is your last quarter. So delicious. So let's review. We have the full moon, the first quarter moon, the new moon, and the last quarter moon. And that's how you can use Oreos to model the phases of the moon. And now you can eat all the Oreos. So don't worry about the phases, just enjoy eating your Oreo. Oh, delicious. So this book is called The Faces of the Moon, and that's the title of our lesson today. This book was written by Bob Crelin and illustrated by Leslie Evans. There's our full moon. I'm going to put on my reading glasses because it's always good to have a good eyesight when you're reading. Do you wonder when you see the moon at dusk or dawn or midday noon, just why her face is curved or round, or why she sometimes can't be found? Each month the moon transforms her space, which grows and shrinks a steady pace. Her changing looks reveal her place in orbit round our globe. Each changing face or lunar phase repeats each 9 and 20 days, from thin to thick, from dark to light, sometimes in day, sometimes at night. Our mighty sun, with sunbeams bright, shines upon the moon in flight, and paints her shadowed face with light to make the phase we see. For as she orbits Earth in space, the sunlight moves across her face, and from our world beneath the sky, we watch moon change as days go by. From night to night and day to day she'll wax or grow, then wane away. Each phase has earned a name we say, as light and shadows change. The moon's first phase, we call it new, when the moon's between the sun and you. Her sunlit side is turned away, and we can't see her night or day. A few days pass and moon's less shy. Her smile lights the twilight sky. The more her sunlit surface shows, the more moon's waxing crescent grows. Crescent moon. We notice moon's first quarter phase around the count of 7 days. Her western half so brightly lit, right down the middle moon looks split like a half moon. Once she's past first quarter moon, we find her in the afternoon. Now waxing gibbous, fat with light, she's nearly round, up late at night. Next comes moon's most famous phase, around the count of 14 days. Her monthly orbit halfway done, she's now opposite the sun. The full moon, big and bright and round, with not a shadow to be found, now rules the heavens all night long and sets upon the break of dawn. So now we're going to do another fun and delicious activity. We're going to be using marshmallows to model the phases of the moon. Now you can either use a regular sized marshmallow, which looks like this, or you can use what I'm using, a campfire giant roaster marshmallow. And I want you to look at the marshmallow and see that the outside of the marshmallow, the bottom of the marshmallow actually is round, just like a full moon. So if you put it up here, you'll see it's a full moon. And let's do our activity using a marshmallow. Make sure you don't eat this till we get to where we're supposed to be. Once past full, the shadows start to darken moon's most western part, and later each night she'll embark the waning gibbous moon. So you can see in this picture that the moon, part of the moon, has disappeared. At least it looks that way. So I want you to take your marshmallow and I want you to bite a little bit on the end. I want you to hold the marshmallow not like this, but like this. We say up and down. And I want you to bite about that much. So I'm actually going to do this. Watch. And when you do that and you turn it sideways, you'll see it looks kind of like that moon. Right? Let's go to the next one. At moon's last quarter of her trip, her eastern half is brightly lit. Round midnight hour she will rise to shine amid the morning skies. Now we want to make a half moon, so we're going to bite some more of the marshmallow, again holding it up and down, bite some more off. So now we have a half of a moon in our marshmallow, half moon. From early dawn to morning blue, her crescent grin is smiling through. Poised high above the morning dew is the waning crescent moon. So now we have just that little bit of a moon called the crescent. So you're going to bite off some more marshmallow. Now when you hold your marshmallow up, you just have a crescent. See how the marshmallow just looks like a crescent moon? Now we're going to go to our final part of the phase of the moon. Then moon returns to where she began, to hide between the earth and sun. And though this orbit thou is done, next month she'll start anew. So when you don't see the moon in the sky, we say it's the new moon, and you can eat the rest of your marshmallow because it'll be gone. As long as we have watched the skies, this nearby world has drawn our eyes in singer's song and poet's rhyme across our globe and throughout time. The moon reminds us of our place, a spinning world in endless space. Each month her ever-changing face is right outside your door. So every time you spot the moon at dusk or dawn or midday noon, you'll know her by her friendly phase and watch her change through all your days. I hope you enjoyed the phases of the moon and enjoyed eating a marshmallow.
Hello, 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 friends. Nature Max here, and you've almost made it to the end of the video. But first, I have one last activity for you all to enjoy with me, and it involves this golf ball. As you know, the moon goes through phases where you can see more of the moon, and sometimes you see less of the moon. Sometimes you can't even see the moon at all. So friends, I'm going to put some names of moon phases on the screen. One is going to be the full moon, one is going to be the half moon, one is going to be the quarter moon, and one is going to be the new moon. And I want you to guess which moon I'm showing you with this ball. And as you can see, this side is the side of the moon that we can see. And this side of the moon is the dark side of the moon. The side that we can't see ourselves, but we know it's there. So friends, are you ready to go? Your first question, what type of moon is this? As you can see, half of this side, the lighter side, the side we can see of the moon is showing, and half of it is not showing. Does anyone know what type of moon this is? Is it a full moon? Is it a half moon? Is it a quarter moon? Or is it a new moon? Say your guesses to your friend next to you. Did anyone guess half moon? That is correct. This is a half moon. As you can see half the moon, but the other half seems invisible to us because the sun's rays aren't shining upon it. All right, friends, what type of moon is this? What type of moon is it in the sky when it looks all black and you can't really see it? Is it the full moon, the half moon, the quarter moon, or the new moon? What's your guess? Tell it to your friend or your teacher. To me, this looks like a brand new moon. The moon has gone through its entire moon cycle, and now it's starting over again where we can't see it, but the sun's rays are shining on the side that we can't see. So friends, we have 2 more questions. I hope you're ready. What type of moon is this? What type of moon can you see right now? Is it a full moon? Or maybe it's a half moon? Or could it be a quarter moon? Or could it be a new moon? Well, we know it's not a new moon because this is the opposite of what we saw last time. What could this be? Make your guess now. This is a full moon. This is when the light of the sun is shining on the entire part of the moon that we can see, and it looks like a full and complete circle. Can you see the full circle? All right, the last moon we're going to look at today is this moon. What type of moon can you see right now? Is it a full moon? Perhaps a half moon? A quarter moon? Or a new moon? This moon is a quarter moon, and some people call it a crescent moon because you can only see this small part of the moon. It looks like a little C in the sky. This one, it looks backwards, but sometimes a crescent moon can be on this side too, depending on what side of the moon cycle we're on. All right, friends, you did a great job with this final activity. Now I'm going to send it back to the man in the moon.
I hope you've had fun learning about the moon and the phases of the moon. Don't forget, look up in the sky next time the moon is out and see Nature Jack. He's the man in the moon.